Well, few people know what happens inside the back rooms of a major political party. Two who do are our insiders, David Hurley and Jamie Watt. David chaired two Liberal campaigns, 2004 and 2006. Jamie worked at the senior levels of various Conservative campaigns since the early 1980s. But it's not their partisanship we're interested in here, but rather their help in demystifying how campaign organizations work. One of the things they rely on are internal polls. We never seem in the public to really get what you guys do with these polls. We often talk about them in the news, and here's just a quick few seconds of some of the times we've referred to internal polls over the years, starting with a Barbara Frum interview with a very young Alan Gregg.
Or is it a different way of interpreting the same data?
No, it's the art element associated with public opinion polling.
They say they're not talking about polls at all, but we do know the party has been polling extensively.
I don't know where his numbers are coming from in terms of it's our numbers against their numbers.
In national polls, the Liberal Party's internal polls show that we are moving up.
Our own internal polls show quite the opposite.
I don't agree, and our own internal polls indicate that we're doing very well here in Saskatchewan.
The poll was totally wrong.
Trying to prove the point, he did something political parties rarely do, revealed internal polls.
Well, you know you're in trouble when you bring the party pollster out to talk about internal polls. But tell me about it. David, you first. Internal polls, how important are they, and how do they differ from public polls?
Well, they're fundamental to everything that you do in a campaign, and they're totally different than the public polls. They're not totally different in that they give you different numbers about who's supporting which party. In fact, if people now tell you our polls, our internal polls are different than the public, they're almost certainly lying about that because there's so many public polls, and they're all going to be roughly right. So it's not like they're all missing it, and there's a big difference going on in the campaign. What you use the polls for is two things. First of all, they're a lot more in-depth than the ones in public tend to have one or two questions. You have a serious survey internally that tells you, first of all, what's really happening underlying those top line numbers. A lot of times attitudes shift before voting intention shifts. And the polls allow you to see whether there's something happening. A period that looks quiet, like this one in the campaign, may not be quiet. There may be a lot going on, and the campaigns will know that, and they'll be moving to shift it. The second thing is it informs all of your tactics. You've got a leader who's giving 3 speeches a day, and you're running radio and television and web ads all across the country in different regions. The internal polling will inform where those speeches are given, what the content of those speeches is, when it's time to remove one ad and replace it with another, and what that ad should say. They are the intelligence core of the campaign.
What would you add to that, James?
I'd add that David is, of course, exactly right. The other thing about those internal polls is that strategists have more comfort with them because they're more familiar with them. They're more familiar with the way the questions are asked. They're more familiar with the way the questions behave. And because, of course, polls are never about one poll, they're always about trend over time. That's why they make themselves a little bit more importantly. Secondly, of course, they're not polling across the country evenly. As David says, it informs tactics, and this is a regional campaign, so it'll be informed by regional choices that you'll make in your polling. But sometimes, you know, Peter, they turn the oven on to 350, they put that poll in, they bake it, and then they fake it. So every time, as David says, you've heard one of these internal polls, sometimes they don't even have to make the calls before they put out the numbers and tell you guys all about it.
How wide is the circle of knowledge on the data that you're getting? One assumes it goes to the leader, or it doesn't go to the leader necessarily?
The leader I served wanted to know every day. These things are like crack cocaine in the campaign. Everybody wants them, and they want them immediately. In fact, I had my business partner, whose job it was to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and analyze the data every day, found her completely non-political husband saying to her, "What are the numbers?" at 5 o'clock in the morning. They're completely addictive. Generally, I would say the leader does know, but very few people know. I would say no more than 5 or 7 in total in a campaign would know what the internals were or need to know. And in fact, the best experience I had with was our Ontario campaign manager, Carl Littler. He didn't want to know what the numbers were. He just wanted to know, what do they tell me to do? Where do I need to deploy troops? Where do I need to get, where should I be emphasizing my dollar spend? I don't need to know all the internal stuff. Just tell me, what does it say? What should we do?
A week from tonight is debate night, and we'll be sitting here talking about what happened, who won, who lost. I want to understand what happens in this next week. especially at the party level, and how you prep a leader. And as we often do in politics, we go to the West Wing, the U.S. drama series, for a tease on one of the ways they tried to give us a sense of the preps for debate night. Here it is.
Affirmative action and quotas are about two different things. Affirmative action is about providing people an opportunity they might not otherwise get.
I don't know how you can talk about providing opportunity while at the same time supporting racial profiling.
What the hell is... I don't support racial profiling.
Your nominee for Attorney General did. Can you tell us why you nominated him?
Why?
Yes.
Because bite me, that's why.
It's a legitimate question.
It's been almost 4 years, Sam. How long do you want to say I told you so?
He wasn't saying I told you so, sir. We need an answer on Rooker.
What's wrong with bite me?
Love that. Great scene. There was a rehearsal for debate night. One assumes all the parties go through this. But how, confrontational are you with your candidate to say, hey, you know what? You can't say that. You got to go this way. You got to watch this minefield.
Well, hopefully very confrontational, because at the end of the day, you want the worst experience for your candidate to be in rehearsal, not in the actual debate itself. That said, one of the things that some strategists make a big mistake on, and debate preparers make a big mistake on, is they over-program and over-prepare their candidate. So what's lost is authenticity. And at the end of the day, what you really want to do is you want both message and authenticity together. And you look at the great debaters and great performers, Clinton, Blair, Reagan, and others. Those are ones who actually can be on message, but do it in an authentic way. And over-preparation for debate can kill that.
David?
Yeah, I think Jamie is absolutely right. If your leader is defensive about something, you want to get that defensiveness beat out of them in debate prep, not show a brittle side to them to the population. If you have an answer that the leader's unprepared for, you need to find that out. You don't want any surprises in the debate. So it really is intense, it's confrontational, it's often unpleasant for those reasons. However,
you don't want your candidate to freeze, though, either, do you?
You don't want your candidate to freeze. I was going to say to Jamie's point about over-programming, that the point is what's really important to them is not to have to memorize a line, like obviously I tried to do, but to have them know what fundamentally they're trying to accomplish. What point do they need to make? What is a point of confrontation that they need to have or avoid with the other leaders? What ground do they stand on? What ground do they fight on? And what ground do they avoid? If they understand that and they're comfortable with that and they're relatively comfortable with the material, that's the frame of mind you want them in.
Last word to you, Jamie. How much time will they spend getting ready for a debate?
That'll depend on the candidate, and every candidate prepares differently. Some candidates like to take their briefing books home and read them over and over again. Some like to prepare. It's just like people learn differently. Some are audio learners, some are visual learners, whatever. But I'll tell you, it'll be the #1 issue, and they will cancel everything, and they'll put everything else to one side to make sure there are no mistakes in that debate night. They'll put as much time as it takes.
All right. Going to leave it at that, gentlemen. Very good. Jamie and David are also blogging for us throughout the campaign. So check it out at cbc.ca/thenational/theinsiders.